Hey guys, only a couple of weeks to Seller Sessions Live. Go grab one of the final tickets at sellersessions.com/live. Make sure you sign up for this Thursday's Ranking Factors webinar. The link is in the notes below of this recording. Get your Amazon ranking and marketing questions answered by Viral Launches head honcho Casey Goss, Orange Hackmaster Evelyn Demirov, ranking expert and pioneer Anthony Lee, chatbot king Paul Harvey, Lee Ran Hirschkorn, myself, Athena Severi, and Dan Ashburn. Don't forget to sign up, check the link below, and I'll see you there. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today we go in depth. So in depth is where we go back in time and take a look at what built the person, their trials and tribulations, heartbreak, joy, and what makes them tick as an entrepreneur. Each person gets their own dedicated intro as we celebrate some of their contributions to our community and look at some of the landmarks in their career. As of today, he is an OG when it comes to selling on Amazon. He is a former cage fighter and school teacher. He was way ahead of the curve with chatbots. He is co-owner of Seller Chatbot for Amazon sellers. He's technically gifted and has the ability to break down complex information. When he speaks, he says Seller Sessions Live instead of Seller Sessions Live. So raise a glass, raise your hands, raise the roof, put your headphones on, put your phone away, let the family know that you'll be coming back soon as we go in depth with Paul, the cage fighting chatbot king Harvey. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Danny. Love that.
No worries. Are you ready to go in depth?
Let's go for it.
Cool. So kicking off with, talk to me about what your parents installed to you as a child.
Pretty much is just don't stop. For them was basically growing up, I'm sure you're the same as that. Your parents in that era was just hard work. It really, really was hard work, and my parents never stopped working day in, day out. No matter if they were healthy or sick or whatever, they made whatever possible in our lives. I never knew how lucky I had it because my parents, anything I wanted, not like in material possessions, but if I wanted to do a new sport, if I wanted to do anything, they would do anything for me, and I didn't realize the sacrifices they made to do that. And that was a big thing for me, is like now that I have two kids, I realize what they did, and that's a really big thing in my life now, is that if my parents can do it, I can do a better job.
So do you think, I think, when I was told about my first Maya, before she was born, he said, you change, when you become a father, it's completely different. And you don't know until that very day. Because I think without children, and rightly so, you're more selfish because you're based on your own needs. You haven't got that lifelong connection with someone that you're fully responsible until the day that you pass. Yeah. So talk to me about that part of parenthood for you and how that had an impact on your life.
I see parenting is one of the most egotistical things you can ever do. Like, I love being a parent, and the heart of my day is spending time with my two kids, because what could be better than spending all day with another version of yourself? And I just think that's awesome. I can spend all day doing these things. I'm playing with another version of myself, which is awesome. And that's, again, is that back to my parents. When I say is that I want to beat my parents, meaning that I'm very competitive. So my parents did a good job parenting. I want to beat them at that and do a better job parenting. And the best way I can do that is spend time with another version of myself. So yeah, that's pretty much my understanding of parenting, because if I love myself, now I love my kids even more.
Sounds good. Talk to me about your earliest entrepreneurial memory, or first job, if you like.
Pretty much my first job ever was sitting on the side of a road selling counterfeit CDs. That was the first, and this was back in South Africa when I was a teenager, which it was pretty common for most teenagers to do that. And that was the first thing, and I won't lie, the sun wore me down. I did it for like 2-3 months, and it wore me down. I could not do it again ever. But yeah, that was my first entrepreneurial position. And actually, my second one was I was Mr. Fats the gorilla at the local theme park.
Talk to me about that one. That's an interesting one. Did you get a load of stick for that?
Yeah, tons. Especially the worst part was I wore this big gorilla suit, this big like a proper one like Disney World, everything. It was a theme park like that. And it was big gorilla suit. And my biggest fear, actually two biggest fears about the job, was kids that are groin hot, because they run into you head first, and even though you have padding, it still hurts. And the second thing was when loads and loads of tourists come, they just yank you in all directions, and it becomes like a feeding frenzy. And even though it's a big mascot, yeah, it's hard work, and yeah, that was actually the main thing, and that was
And
very
sweating,
cool.
surely, in that big
Sweat,
suit in the sunshine.
and not just your sweat. I mean, I worked weekends, so that means it was 5 days of sweat waiting for me.
Waiting for you to jump into that suit. Oh, I bet you
Oh
love
yeah.
that. Talk to me about school. Important or waste of time?
So this is interesting because before I was an Amazon seller, I was a teacher and actually a head teacher.
Yeah.
So, and bear in mind, the kids I taught pretty much all levels. I taught here in South Africa, public, private schools. I taught in the UK in a normal school, private school, and even the main school was a PRU, a pupil referral unit, a school for kids. They were pretty much in and out of jail. And what I found, and I taught maths as well, and what I really found is that as a head teacher, it really hurt me because when I was a head teacher, I was a head teacher of a PRU, of the pupil referral unit. What really hurt me is that I worked there for 6 years, and I went from being a teacher to being head teacher, and it was awesome. And I made some huge, huge differences to the kids' lives there. We really did. But I can tell you right now, in the a year after school, we did nothing. Is that literally every kid that went through there? The aim of the school was this. The aim of the school was to get kids back into mainstream schools, because a kid in a mainstream school costs the government £1,500 a month. A kid in my school costs the government £40,000 a month. Sorry, £40,000 a year. Sorry, £1,500 for a year for a mainstream school kid, and a special needs kid like a kid in my school that just had behavior issues was £40,000 a year. So the goal is that we meant to get these kids back into mainstream. I was there for 6 years. Not a single kid went to mainstream.
Yeah.
And in the school's history, I think it's like 2 kids that went back to mainstream. And the problem is, as soon as they finish school, they go back into benefits, and the thing is that's their way of being.
Yeah.
What really got to me there is, you asked me now, is school worthwhile? School would be worthwhile if these kids had a stronger foundation. So the thing is, they didn't need to learn maths. I taught these kids calculus. Like, how is calculus going to help a kid that's going to go in benefits? We know that.
I've done a similar thing to you back in 2001 to 2004-ish period. It's called being a key worker. I used to work in East London. So we're dealing with, like, you've got the gangs and stuff in the area, and the youth's coming up. I'm originally from Hackney. And there's not much going on, especially when they stopped all like the youth clubs. And this is why you're dealing with the gun crime and everything you've got on in the UK today. There's nothing left. It takes away the hope from the underclass, don't have anything left. So I used to teach music production. So we'd have these kids who were all kicked out of school, and through hundreds of kids, we've had a few successes. Like we had Chris, he's gone on to be a top drum and bass DJ. He's on Radio 1, or he's had shows on Radio 1 and DJs all around the world. There's Wadi Camacho. He become cruiserweight British champion as well. So, and he's still active as an athlete now. Then you had an MC called Fuming. He was on one of the biggest grime records with Lethal Bizzle from about 2004, 2005. So there are a few people come through that area. And, there's some of the early some of the movies that were being made and cultivated over in East London. I see a lot of those students there. They played extras and stuff like that. So I'm like you in the sense that, where does that pathway lead to? Because you need to engage people. We had a curriculum called ASDAN, so people couldn't really read, write, and spell. I mean, when I left school, I couldn't read and write properly either. So I could work with these kids because being in the music business, they wanted to make records and be grime MCs and do production. So it was a bit easier to deal with people that I'm taking, knives and bars off them when they come to college to protect themselves, and say, look, these have to be locked away. This is unacceptable. But I understand you're trying to protect yourself from being attacked by others. But there's a massive hole in the system there. And when you come from a poor environment, like I've done, I come from council estates and stuff, there's very limited what you can do. And without education and getting out, there's not much else you can do. And they will fail at school, but it's about finding their thing. What is their one thing? And for them was for music. In your school, it must have been difficult because you were doing calculus and stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you can't get most primary school kids interested in calculus.
No, and also that I mean, like the gangs don't talk about calculus.
Yeah, I mean, it works in some things if you're serving up and stuff. You need to know your mathematics, but there's that hustling element that can be entrepreneurial as well, but doing it from an ethical standpoint and still hard work. And once people have got a focus, that changes everything. If you've got something to aim for in life, you've got something. And I find it struggle to live with when I see people around me who don't understand. They talk about these gangs, and they're creating crimes and everything else. But you have to take it back to the foundation. What causes this? And our government took away a lot of the youth clubs and everything else. So when you take everything away and you've got kids bringing up kids, it makes it very difficult to put these people onto a straight path. They need early stage mentorship of some kind. And if their father's not available, their parents are not available in their life, then they are going to be reckless. I was reckless as a kid. I didn't have a figure around to protect me. It was not until I got older. Does that make sense? But
100%.
It's a tough world out there. So do you think that your schooling has helped you become a lot better, like with your consultancy work and stuff? You're able to create comprehension and things like that?
Oh, definitely is that. The schooling is that luckily my parents sacrificed a hell of a lot. So they gave me access to a really good education system here. And that made me who I am. It really did. And also I went to university, studied a useless degree, I majored in maths and psychology, two things that just clash. I don't know why I did that. It's not really a good career move doing that, but I did that. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, is that the education is a good place, but again, is that I think education needs to fit a certain person. It's tough, and in that some people just the education system isn't built for them, but there are ways around that. And I know the government's trying to do these things, but it's still too archaic. It really is. It needs to be more fluid and dynamic. And again, is that I'm a teacher. I know what's involved with that. I know the government is doing their best, but yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah. In terms of your first meaningful job that you enjoyed, talk me through that.
So probably the best and the most fun job I had, my first taste of internet marketing was on my summer holidays. As a teacher, I knew always as a teacher, I did not want to be a teacher, because one thing all teachers have in common is when they become old, they become like decrepit and like bitter in life. I mean, the amount of teachers I've met that said the biggest regret is seeing how successful their students became and how rich they became, and how much hardships the teachers had because they had to get by every month.
And they all have to wear those jackets where they have like the pouches on their elbows. Have you seen those?
Yes, there's tweed jackets, yeah.
The tweed jackets with the pouches, yeah.
So that's the main thing there. But then that's why I wanted to. So I thought, okay, one summer holidays, I had 6 weeks to do nothing. And my girlfriend, my girlfriend was wife now, but at the time she was working, so I had nothing to do every day. My friends worked, so I was 6 weeks nothing to do. So then what I decided, I read a book about how to create mobile apps. And it was a big thing there. Is that mobile apps were blowing up. People were making tons of money out of them. So I read a book how to do that. And wow, I knew nothing about coding at all. I was like, I can't do this. So then I stumbled across internet marketing, and they said you can build mobile apps in just an hour on through these like website portals, everything. And then I was sold. I fell for all the.
You can build mobile apps in an hour, but it'll be a piece of shit, basically.
Oh yeah! Oh man, it was such a piece of crap. Wow, they were bad. Yeah. But I fell for it, and I paid $500 for the course right there, and I started it at like 11 p.m. The one night, and I was blown away. Like, wow, I gotta get this right now because the scarcity timer was going out. I had to get right there and then. So I got everything, and then I spent the whole night designing, playing around, and then that following morning, I started creating apps, everything, and then within a week later, I published a whole bunch of apps on the Google App Store. And then what I did was that summer holiday, I published about 50 apps on the Google App Store with a little advertising link in the bottom. One of them was the FIFA 13 news app, where when they open up this news app, it's all about tips and tricks, and it's all just hyperlinks to news articles about the best tips and tricks for FIFA 13. And that's all I did for 6 weeks. And then that generated £500 every month for the next 2 years until Google banned my accounts for copyright infringements. But that was a really cool thing. I was blown away how easy that was, and I didn't actually know. No, I should have actually done it much more, and just hired someone to do it for me, and just create all these spammy apps. I could have made a lot of money. But that's my first taste of entrepreneurship, and actually that's what led me to Amazon.
Right. So we're jumping along quite a way here. So that business, would you consider that as a success, whether that's financial or a learning success that built you for the future?
I would say pretty much a learning success. I always knew that this wouldn't be long-term scale, because the other thing was there was two aspects to that business. There was one, designing these spammy apps that you publish on Google App Store or even iOS Store. The second aspect was there was you approach businesses like restaurants and say, I can design an app for your restaurant. And I tried that, cold called and walked into a whole bunch of restaurants asking them. But also is that doing that, I learned a few things. First of all, don't look respectable when you do that. Don't walk in there with a hoodie, jeans, like all cut up, everything. That's what I did. I really did that. And they never took me seriously. And when I did actually get an interview with the owner, they just berated me. And it was tough going. And that's why I learned I don't want to do cold calls or sales. So
basically you try to do like a Steve Jobs, walk in with a polo neck with New Balance trainers on, or
pretty
like
much,
Zuckerberg.
Actually, that would be more respectable.
Yeah, but basically you got your ass handed to you because you was like scruffy.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's ridiculous.
It's a shame, isn't it, how you get judged on clothing. Like, I hate suits like to wear. I wore one on my wedding day. Very rare that you get me into suits. I've never liked them. I go completely against the grain for that. Even like when I'm doing speaking gigs or whatever, very rarely will you get me in a suit. And I know that, you've got to put your best foot forward and present yourself in the right manner, but it's never sat with me, that conformist attitude. I've never wanted to be the guy that sat in a suit on the train for the next 40, 50 years and then just being miserable, But yeah, so that was that experience there. So talk to me about something that no one else knows about you.
One of the biggest things is that I guess as we are moving along now, but one of the biggest things is that when I was teaching in the schools and stuff, the amount of times I just wanted to punch the kids back.
Yeah.
like really, really is that because I was in a school of known gang members, it pretty much became a thing of like, because I couldn't relate to them. I could relate to them, but they didn't respect me because I have a South African accent and I teach maths and I was the deputy head teacher. So like, there's three things right there is that they won't relate to me. Pretty much the one thing is that the hardest part was that teaching part, is that when the kid really, really tries punches you, is it to not retaliate, and that's a tough one. Is that I think that restraint is a real, real tough one, especially when the kid found out that my wife at the time was pregnant, and then he told me all the things he did to her last night to make her pregnant. Yeah. That was a bit of a tough one to hear as a new father.
It's funny. Like I've had it where when I was teaching, I had a few kids. They were pretty good, but some they were just anger. When they would attack, I just put my arms behind my back, just because it'd be on camera and stuff. I stand there, and they're a bit smaller than me, so you got hit in the chest and stuff. And then when I off record reported it because I don't see it. That doesn't benefit anything. You give someone the benefit of the doubt. That I can see where the anger and that builds up. But the guy who run the school, like the boss man, he said, take him around the back and give him a slap. I said, you can't do that. Take him around the back and give him a slap. What example does that set? Do you know what I mean? And that's
exactly.
He worked like he was an ex-army major and stuff, so he's proper militant, But I'm thinking, could you imagine? Like, I take one around the back, give him a slap, and then I'll get like 20 guys turning up on mopeds.
Oh yeah.
A bit later, Yeah. So let's talk about name a book to me that's it's been a big influence on your life.
I would say pretty much Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yes.
For me, I love that book purely because it's old school. If you read it, it sounds like you're hearing. Because I use Audible and
The
read as
audio.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, audio, yeah. And then when I heard it, well, first I heard it, it sounds like it's like an old school gentleman. And I love
Yeah.
that. And that's crazy how those old school mentalities can still relate currently
Today.
to the current day of times. I
When
love that.
that was like the early 1900s, that book,
Yeah.
1910, 1920s.
Mm.
Also, a big influence on your life. It could be a non-business related, but like your parents, family, friend, mentors. Who's been the biggest influence and why?
Biggest influence on me, I would pretty much say, so I pretty much say the biggest influence on me would purely be my father.
Yeah.
100% is that, and purely because is that he was a very unhealthy man, and he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in his 50s, and then within about 6 years he passed away from it. And I saw him suffer every day and regress every single day, and still it didn't change him who he was, and that was awesome. Is that I saw him go through that, and like if he can do that, then
Yeah. So the
yeah,
goal here is that he never changed as a human being, whether
no,
regards
never.
it was had money, no money, had success, had no
Mm.
success. He still remained to be the same.
100%. And is that at the end of the day is that no matter how broke you are or how hard your life is, I just think of my father. I remember one day he was losing his hair. And I was brushing hair and saying, Dad, you're losing your hair. He goes, Paul, I've got bigger problems in my life. And it
Yeah.
was nice because literally right now I am losing my hair.
I know, same as me. I remember started losing my hair, and I've started to lose my shit. But then I'm like, look, I'm in my 40s now. I've got to let it go.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly.
Okay, so talk to me about 3 positive habits that you do on a daily basis.
So pretty much, positive habits is because I'm a data fiend. I love data. I love checking everything. Every day I have an 80 point checklist that I have to do every day. An
Well,
80
you
point
personally, or you feel that to
me personally, and this is in my personal goals. This is not business. This is just personal goals. Stuff like ridiculous things. This is ridiculous. Stuff like brush your teeth, shower, have a cold shower, exercise. All the mundane things we take for granted. Really mundane. And then what I do is every task I as a point. So maybe like brushing my teeth is 1 point. Maybe I do meditation. That's 5 points. And the goal is, at the end of the day, how many points do I have? That's the goal. But the real goal is to improve every day by 1%. So if today I got 50 points, then the goal is tomorrow to get 51 points and always improve by 1% every day.
So you're on some kind of stack ranking method.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
And it's nice that's my biggest habit I do every single day. And then I notice that the more things you do over there, the more at peace you are, and the more disciplined you are. That actually overflows into your business.
Do you do any meditation or any exercise?
Yeah, I do. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with Wim Hof.
Yes, we spoke about in there with the breathing and stuff like that.
Yeah. So about 3 years back, I went and with Wim Hof, and I became a qualified Wim Hof instructor.
Yeah.
And that pretty much requires you to climb Mount Snezga in Poland in just your shorts, no shirt at all, climb to the top of the mountain in about minus 20 degrees. Just like that, and it's about 6 hour climb, and then he just teaches you how to really go tap into the power of meditation. You can do some crazy things. I mean, I don't practice now as much as I used to, but doing that meditation, you could do weird things like literally, I could take my hand and dunk it in freezing cold water, and I could take it out and I could just stare at it. It sounds ridiculous. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I could stare at it and just make my hand warm up to a point I could put in your face, and it'll feel like my hand's on fire on your face. I know that sounds ridiculous.
You're using mind over matter in terms of
I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's a thing. It really, really is. It's purely because, like for example, Wim, when he goes in his hikes, these big hikes, if someone, let's say, is cold and they're struggling and they're losing the discipline, he'll walk up to them and he'll make them hug him, and then he'll warm up his whole body, hence warm them up.
Right.
And on these hikes, one of the hikes I went on, There was one guy. He must have been he's like 6'5", and the funny thing with him though is he's the proper alpha male, huge guy, 6 pack, good looking, smooth talker. You know that type of guy, the proper alpha male.
Not us.
And when I pretty much
Yeah.
When I went on this hike, I mean, I'm nowhere near the most like athletically built guy or whatever, but we did the climb. On top of the mountain, we all like going hoo-ha and like saying how proud we are. We climbed the mountain in 5 hours, minus 20 degrees, loving it, just wearing shorts and how happy we are, everything. And then the constructor said, do not take any selfies. So what happened was this big alpha guy, he then went to his bag to open his bag to get his phone out. He took his phone out and took some selfies. What happened then was he actually broke concentration. And then he immediately realized, oh, wait a minute, I can't put my phone back in my bag now because my hands are numb. He goes, wait a minute, my hands are numb, my body will go numb, and then the shock just hit him, I'm cold. And then he actually sat down in the snow, bad idea. And then the shock of the cold just hit him, and then he wasn't focused anymore. And he blacked out and went blind for 2 minutes. And which luckily the instructor was right. We were right there, but had he been alone, he would have right there had hypothermia and would be in a tough spot. That just shows that it doesn't matter if you're this big alpha person, that you think has everything that can do anything. No, it's just power of the mind. I appreciated that because it showed it didn't matter who you were physically, it mattered what you did mentally and how strong you are mentally. You can overcome anything.
You know what I love about you, and I didn't find this out until after a couple of years, is this whole cage fighting thing. Please talk me through this, because this is genius. Because you don't, no disrespect, you don't look like a cage fighter.
So I appreciate that, and you have no idea how often I get that.
Yeah.
So what happened pretty much is back in South Africa when this is probably about in 2002, 2003, UFC this is the beginning of UFC. Now, when you talk about UFC, I'm talking about UFC 1 to 10. And I'm a huge, long-time UFC fan. So anyone that's watched UFC 1 to 10 and seen where it come from to what it is now, it's amazing. So then when I watched that, I'm like, man, I want to do that. I really want to do that. So I joined up a whole bunch of gyms in South Africa. And bear in mind, at the time, South Africa wasn't really up to times with like the UK and the US in terms of MMA, martial arts, everything. So pretty much for us, it was a day of you get into the ring and you just try and knock each other out as hard as you possibly can. And I did that for 10 years. And to this day, my nose is still askew, my ears are still a bit off center. And literally is that I took an IQ test before I started training, and then a few years in, it wasn't pretty. All those blows to my head did mount up, and now literally to this day, I'm not allowed to do any training because doctors say there's any more concussions, it could be quite dangerous for me.
So what was roughly what your record? I know you probably don't want to remember it because.
So is that because the scene was still so new, and I'm gutted about this. Is that I couldn't get any amateur or professional MMA fights. It wasn't actually a thing. So it was pretty much I did boxing and kickboxing. Mm-hmm. I had 2 boxing fights there, won both, and a whole bunch of grappling fights or competitions where I just entered in. And I don't have a record there. I wasn't really checking stuff. But then, so I didn't actually do any proper MMA competitions. But this is what kills me, because when I left South Africa to come to the UK, then it blew up in South Africa. And then all my friends that I trained with for years and years and years started entering to EFC. EFC is this African version of UFC. Yeah. And literally, these are the guys that I actually trained with for years and years. And they were into EFC, and they were champions, doing well. And it killed me because these are my friends that I trained with, and they made the transition easily into EFC, and that makes me upset in a way because I just missed it. Had I stayed here a year longer, I would have been on big scorecards, big productions here in South Africa. It would have been a game-changing thing. Unfortunately, I went to the UK and got fat from the Heathrow injection.
So obviously, with all the concussions and everything, I used to box as a kid as well, and it is tough. I mean, I sparred a lot. I think it was 3 gym shows and that, but it's heavy going. I think anyone who understands the life of a boxer, and
Mm.
there's nothing quite like getting through those ropes, because you get all these people sitting down with their beer shouting at the screen, do this, do that. But people don't understand is that unless you understand the sport, our people will take your best attributes away. So that you're in the ring and you're trying your best, but that person is just, it's levels to the sport. Their footwork's better, and people don't see that. They're baying for your blood. And
Oh yes.
as an art form, I think boxing, like other martial arts, is very difficult to turn when the lights come on and put the show on. Sparring's different, that's the playground compared. You're working things out, but when you go under the lights, there's just you. And there's no one there. Everyone steps out the ring. The only 2 people or 3 people left are you, your opponent, and the referee. And it's like, who blinks?
100%. I mean, for example, what you say about you never knew about me being cage fighter. That's purely because I'm very humble about it, and I try to be humble about it. And it's purely because for 10 years I got my butt kicked every single day. And with that, I don't think me being experienced martial arts is a big deal, because any type of ego I would have has been lost because it's been beaten literally out of me. And that's something you'll see with long-term martial artists. You don't even know they're martial artists because I'm doing it for so long as a part of them, and they don't think it's a thing. And they're so humble from their opinion. And that's a big deal, is that any type of martial artist that has an ego, he's not good. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't nearly been challenged or tested enough.
Because I think a lot of, you have to get into great physical shape, like with you in the gorilla suit earlier on. It's like when we used to make weights, you'd have to have like sweatsuits on. Some of us used to have, back in the day, bin bags under our t-shirts and stuff. Oh, yes. To get the weight down while we're skipping and stuff and doing bag work, But I don't think people understand is like the mental strength that you need to get in that ring. There's people outside. And if you get stopped or you get knocked out or you hit to the ground, and how you've got to come up from that, and you look around the room, you're dazed. And there's people laughing. And do you know what I mean? I think that's why you see with boxers, they very rarely come back well from brutal knockouts.
Yeah. 100%.
Like Amir Khan and stuff has come back a couple of times and he's been quite good, but most people are not the same, because like once you've been when you've had a hard battle, it takes something from you. It takes a piece of your soul.
I mean, look at Freddie Roach. He's the best boxer and coach of all time, and he has Parkinson's purely from taking too many hits when he was an amateur boxer. Yeah.
I mean, as a boxer, he was still a good boxer. Good boxer, but he wasn't exceptional. But as a trainer, he's been absolutely phenomenal, isn't he? So, with that in mind, let's talk about, what's your biggest weakness?
Perfectionism. And I get that from my father. He's a perfectionist, so literally is that this week alone, I'm actually moving my whole team, and we're now using Asana as our CRM for our management. And it should be an easy process, but I'm making sure everything is perfect. I'm in penal progress, and I see this a lot of times. I mean, Danny, some of the guys that we're familiar with. For example, Dan, a good friend of yours. One thing I love about Dan is that he used my chatbot software recently, and he asked me for some quick questions. I told him what to do. He went and did it, and then he absolutely crushed it. He got some really awesome results, ranked some products that did incredibly well. And I said to him, "Okay, Dan, why don't you do this? Do that, improve it by doing this." I followed a whole bunch of questions, improvements. He goes, "Yeah, okay." He didn't do it. He didn't need to do it because he just took action there and then.
Are we talking about Dan Little?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, Dan's great at he's like you. He's very methodical, but he'll be the first to admit he'll set and forget. So he'll do all the heavy lifting and mean to measure later, and then he doesn't. Because at the end of the day, it's that 80-20 rule. If it's working, he doesn't try and squeeze the extra 2 or 3%. He'll move on to the next thing. So talk to me about your darkest hour, that just before dawn. You miss mortgage payment, let staff go.
The darkest hour. So this is pretty much 2 years after I quit my job and did Amazon full time. Yeah. One thing I do blame this on myself, but one thing, my biggest weakness, actually my second biggest weakness, I said perfectionism, but my second biggest weakness is a teacher training taught how to be a teacher, not how to run a business. Yeah. And after I quit my job to be a full-time Amazon seller, that came home to roost. There were a whole bunch of things I didn't realize. For example, is that back then I was supporting my whole family, my newborn, my wife, just on my Amazon income, which is not really a good idea to do that. It really, really isn't. And unfortunately, I had a big shipment that I had to pay, and it was a container, and it's about £20,000 worth of stock, which would have been about 100K in retail value. Problem was though is that this container took 8 months to. I came to the UK, then I sent it back to China and back, and actually went back and forth 3-4 times. It was ridiculous. Cost me a fortune. Problem was though is that what I did is actually the money for that stock I actually loaned from a friend. And it was a friend which I respect so much. I really, really do. And to this day, I think I burnt my bridge with him. And when I'm doing incredibly well, doing millions every day, then I'll go back to him and say, "Here, man, I owe you this," and say thanks. But basically, what happened was that he gave me a loan, and the loan was just for 6 months, because basically is that it was a 6 month cash loan to fund the stock, and then once the stock loaded, I'll be able to pay him back with ease because the stuff was selling so well. I thought it was a sure thing. So then what came home is that 6 months were up, and he said to me, and then he emailed me saying, "Paul, I need to pay my tax, so I really need that loan back now as promised." I said to him, "Sorry, man, I can't do it, and it was a tough spot for me. I really apologize." And then he just said, "Well, Paul, like, make a plan. This is business now. You're a friend, but I'll get a lawyer on you. Make a plan right now." And then I had at that point, it was a tough point in my business, and I was literally maxed out on everything because a whole bunch of things went wrong over the past few months. It was crazy. So then I had to go to my wife's parents and ask for a loan. And for me, that was ridiculous.
Going cap in hand, yeah.
Yeah, and it was your wife's parents. It wasn't even your own parents. My own parents couldn't. I mean, my mom was on her own. She couldn't, and unfortunately, at that time as well, my brother he would loan me money, but he just couldn't as well, because also I know what he does, and he's involved in a whole bunch of things. He couldn't afford it. The only people were my wife's parents. And bear in mind that amount is a fortune in South African rands, and as South African, that's a huge outlay for them. And it was a tough one to go to my wife's parents and ask for money. It really was tough. I paid them back within 3 months with interest, so that's a really good sign. But still, it was a tough part. And that was a really tough part for me, because to tell my wife, ask her to ask her parents for a loan. A tough one.
So where would you put that in terms of your greatest comeback from adversity? Is that top of the list, or have you had other similar situations?
I would pretty much say the best thing I've ever done in terms of adversity. So earlier on, I touched on my father. I said that he had MS, and I also have MS. And actually, my MS, he got MS, multiple sclerosis, when he was in his late 40s, early 50s, and I got it in my mid 20s, a few years after he passed away. And the cage fighting, or the blows to the head, was a catalyst in me getting it. So that's why I can't train anymore or anything like that. And also is that I can't do this anymore, even though I'm in pure health. It really, really is good. But basically is that what I did is my biggest achievement, I think, in my life is purely when I climbed that mountain with Wim Hof. The highest mountain in Poland, minus 20 degrees Celsius, just wearing a shirt, just wearing shorts, nothing else. It was a big achievement for me. And actually, that was at the point my father survived MS for 5 years and then passed away. And so I wanted to celebrate when I beat my father. So at the 5 year mark of me having MS, I climbed that mountain to prove, Dad, I beat you. And I'm very competitive with it. So,
in a nice way.
Yeah, very much so. And is that even though I have MS right now, I'm in I'm better condition than everyone, and actually no one even knows I have it, and no one would even know. All it means is that I have to have a crazy diet to make sure I keep it at bay.
Yeah, totally agree. So what is the most common advice that you give to people? Like generic advice, doesn't have to be business related.
I would say pretty much it's a bit hypocritical, but I would say just get it done.
Yeah.
Fail as fast as you can and get it done. And I say that because it's hypocritical, because I'm a perfectionist, but I know that's holding me back. Mm-hmm. I tell everyone, just get it done and figure it out later. Yeah. I mean, for example, back in when I first started selling on Amazon, the amount of people that did not sell on Amazon because they were worried about tax. Yeah. And that is a concern, but that's only a concern when you're making money.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
literally that one thing held a lot of people back. So
Yeah,
my
people
concern
go
is,
into what ifs and stuff.
yeah,
Sometimes you just have to run with the ball, and then you make the rules as you go along.
100%.
Yeah. What advice should people ignore on the flip side?
Um, Pretty much, I would say it's no matter what people tell you, no matter what the marketing says, it's not easy. Whatever it is, it's not easy. It's only easy, and I mean, that's a very broad sense. For example, let's say a normal thing like kicking a ball. For example, like football, kicking a ball. It's easy, but it's not easy. For example, then I can tell. I bet you that because you being British, you played a lot of footy growing up. I never. So you can kick a ball a whole lot better than I can. So when you tell me it's easy, for you it is. For me, it's not.
No, I mean I was a goalkeeper.
Oh, nice.
I played at school level. One of my biggest struggles was doing goal kicks. So
Really?
I didn't. I wasn't very good. I was a good stopper, but I used to have the defenders take my goal kicks because they were more powerful in terms of getting the ball up the field. I mean, back then we're going back some, so I used to hoof it down the pitch. It's not like with the Italians where you bring it out from the back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, look at Beckham. The reason he was world class in what he done was because the frantic way he would constantly practice over and over again. When everyone go home from training, he'd practice free kicks, and that's what made him one of the greats. He punched above his weight. He was a good-looking guy in a right setting. He played for Manchester United, who was already on the up, and he had an incredible work ethic. And so he was able to play in some of the greatest teams in the world. And by his own admission, he wouldn't be the greatest all-rounder, but he could spray a football and drop it on the sixpence, couldn't he? And that comes down to the practice. So let's get into the commerce side of things now. So talk to me when you found FBA for the first time.
So pretty much because I designed apps, right? And then I was trying to now launch my own app consulting business where I just design apps for businesses. And that was not going well at all. It was not going well. The only money I was making was the spammy apps that were generating money on the side. I was on like £500 a month, but that's literally no work at all. So now is that I wanted to find something else. And I knew I would never be a teacher. So I went to the next biggest thing. And then I saw Amazing Selling Machine. The amazing.com is like that's the original, it's like the granddaddy Amazon training program. And I saw the videos and I thought to myself, you know what? They're talking about selling these products on Amazon, but that's very much similar. The Amazon storefront is very similar to the app storefront. If I can make little junk apps that make money, why couldn't I just sell products that make money? Like even junk products for that matter. And that was so when I saw FBA, I was like, wow, this is a big opportunity. So when the videos came out, I signed up immediately, and I used a portion of my wedding budget to pay for the course. And that's how supportive my wife is. She didn't mind at all. But that's pretty much how I got started in Amazon. And that's, I remember that day. I remember I was upset because I signed up to Amazing Selling Machine. And at that time, it was a year before I got married. My brother came to visit me here in the UK back then. And then he took me to Vegas on a surprise weekend. And I was upset because I wanted to finish my course. Crazy how literally like your perspective changes when you see how the opportunity, we don't do anything but that. And yeah, that's pretty much how I got started.
So you also worked in a space in education as well. You had some rough times there, didn't you? You gave a lot of yourself to people, like because you're very good at breaking down technical, complex information. I've seen it firsthand as well. Talk me through some of that as well.
So pretty much what happened was when I started my Amazon business. So I was in Amazing Machines, so ASM, and that was the first iteration. That was ASM 1. And they did subsequent relaunches. And ASM 2 came out. And at that time, I was still teaching a full-time job as a teacher. And then when ASM 2 came out, I put up a little stupid little Facebook post saying, hey, I'm in ASM 1. I'm not earning too well, but I like to start a little mastermind, just a few people. And then I had about 30, 40 people messaging me privately, but I had a question, say, what are you learning, what's your skill level, everything, and so on and so forth. I chose 5 people, and those 5 people, I think I was the lowest earner amongst those 5 people. One of them is now currently doing, I think, about 8 million a month, and the other three, they were doing, they were averaging about 100 to $120,000 per month within the first 2 years of us working together. And that was really cool because then even though they earned more than me, I helped them as much as possible, and then actually formed partnerships within that mastermind. I was only 5 people, but I formed partnerships in that mastermind, and then those people that went and did really well, they then invited me to speak in their webinars, to speak in their private coaching, everything. And that helped me then to kind of realize that people need help here. I want to help them. And again, is that if I'm going to quit teaching, I want to teach. So that's quite cool. So now I can do the Amazon stuff. And then I ended up helping a whole bunch of people. And when I'm talking about the beginners of Amazon sellers, I know pretty much everyone's Amazon history because I've been around since the very beginning, from ASM1.
Mm-hmm.
And I've pretty much seen the trajectory of many people. And the problem with that, though, is that because I give a lot of myself, a lot of people helped out did come back and kind of stab me in the back. There were strategies of mine that were very, very secret. They were they were black hat. They were black hats that I kind of kept to myself, that were then spread around and used in high level masterminds and coaching sessions, everything. And then even so, the month after the month that I quit my job was my month of highest sales for the next 2 years, purely because there was one of the biggest gurus in the Amazon space at that time launched a product in the exact same niche as me, and he undercut me, and he resulted in me losing about 80% of my sales. Well, I don't mind losing if you beat me fair and square, but he used purely black hat, really underhand tactics to do that. And kind of, it's tough when you quit your job and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, my income is now down like 2/3. It's a tough one.
I mean, the space is getting pretty dirty at the moment. It's been a bit of a cesspit in some of the groups, and it's interesting how, like, you know, people were turning on each other. You know, it started off as quite a nice, but I suppose that's what happens when there's money and egos come into play. I stay out the groups. I've seen that quite often. Like, it's almost like it's become a trend. And what we've got to be careful of is it turning into the comment section of the Daily Mail or YouTube, or do you know what I mean? But I suppose the differences on Facebook is that most people present themselves, you know, it's their private page, and you've got pictures of their family and stuff, so they don't give it to them so much. But I have noticed an uptrend where it's getting a bit ugly out there in the Facebook groups.
And that's what's crazy, is it really annoys me because I was one of the first. Because I'm one of the first main training courses, ASM. ASM had, I bought through one of their affiliates, so there was another another Facebook group, but basically there were 2 Facebook groups that I was aware of that were purely for Amazon sellers, and it was amazing. I learned more in those first 6 months than I did for the next about 6-7 years, to be honest, purely because it was a portal, a Facebook group where sharing was encouraged. You didn't mind sharing your products because there was so much space, there's so much opportunity. Amazon, you could share everything, and people could even copy you and it'll be fine because it's just, there's so much opportunity. And it was so good, there's so much sharing, everything, and everyone started at the same point. We all learned so much together. It was crazy. I miss that, I really do, because it was a community and we all helped one another. It was great. And you don't come across that anymore. I haven't come across that in a proper Facebook group for a very, very long time. That's sad. It really is.
Indeed. Slightly changing the subject, do you want to talk me through your sourcing process? What makes you think of the products that you choose and stuff? You don't have to reveal the products.
Oh, no, of course, no. So pretty much what I do is that because I think product research and sourcing is such a valuable thing. I'm lucky because I'd say about 4 years ago, I made my goal to find an amazing sourcing agent. So what I did was I gave myself a period of 3 months to find an amazing sourcing agent, and I spent about £5,000 just testing different sourcing agents. And again, is that a lot of the time they made me promises, everything. I lost no money there, but overall I lost £5,000. But did I lose anything? I don't think so, because I found my sourcing agents, and they're so good that when I went to China once, years ago, I met them, and they were working out of like just a little garage, like a 1-car garage. That's what they're working out of. And now to this day, Now they have about 50 to 60 staff, and they have doing this for Amazon sellers. They are doing hundreds of million. They're doing really, really well. The cool thing about this is normally they wouldn't they don't take on new clients, but because I've been with them from the very, very beginning, they love me.
Yeah.
Because I knew they were good, they really are, and that's really awesome. Because now all I do is my sourcing process. All I do now is I have a very strict checklist that my assistants do product research, and they send to me. I look over the research, and if I like what they did, I literally send that URL to my sourcing team in China and say, please, I want quotes on this product over here from 4 or 5 suppliers, but I want these changes, and let me know what you think. And they reply back with a quote and everything, and I say, great, send me a sample. They give me a sample, and I can literally make the tweaks and everything. And then within about a month or 2 of me actually going back and forth, the order's been placed, and it will be within Amazon.
Sounds good. Talk to me about the most important business metrics that you track on your Amazon business.
So this is interesting because I say this to everyone, and it's very rare I see people doing this. So one thing I always do, all my products, I record their daily traffic, sessions, sales, everything. So basically, I have spreadsheets now going back from when I first started that shows every product on that day. How many sessions did it get? Page views, sales, orders, its keyword ranking, everything. And then if we're making changes to the pricing or whatever, we have a little comment box detailing that. Now, the reason I like this is because I have products. I had one product. I sold that business. I had one product that was doing reasonably good sales, but I was doing about 60, 70 sales per day. And then I noticed within about 6 months, it had transpired to only doing 10 per day. But because I have my spreadsheet recording everything, I could see that there were tons of new competitors that all dropped their price and they were undercutting one another. And I knew that this niche, this brand over here is not going to last long. So then I just let myself sell out, and I'm out of it. It was quite nice. I know it's a product I had for 2-3 years, but again, is that the lifespan of that product was only 2-3 years because it was so easy to copy. I knew that. So that's a really good metric to measure, is how much sessions, page views, conversion rates, everything on a daily basis. And then I have my team record this on a daily basis, and any changes that happens, if they see, wait a minute, on this day when we didn't make sales, maybe on this day we did Facebook ads or increased PPC, we record that. And it's really good because each product then tells its own story. And essentially, when I launch a product now, I give my team about 6 to 8 weeks, and the conversion rate will be through the roof, purely because they are testing those metrics on that spreadsheet, and we see what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, sounds good. And talk to me about, what are your most important channels in terms of marketing that you couldn't do without?
That I could do without.
You couldn't do without.
I couldn't do is that
basically,
my biggest fear is that one day I wake up and my Facebook ad account has been closed. That is a fear of mine because I do lots of Facebook ads, not just for myself, but for my clients, for everything. And my biggest fear one day is that maybe I lose my Amazon ad account, which would then affect my clients, my business, everything. And it'll be tough because I don't want to say I won't lose it, but touch wood, it's possible. I mean, we know Facebook ad accounts are very similar to Amazon accounts. You can lose them, and Facebook are not as forgiving as Amazon.
Yeah. So
there's my one biggest fear, is just losing Facebook ad accounts, because I do all my advertising. I don't do anything else. I purely just do Facebook.
Makes sense. So tell me about a product failure that you've had, and then walk me through the learnings of that.
So pretty much is that I sold this one niche. It was kids' musical instruments, and the one day we sold these musical maracas. You see, there's little balls you shake and make like there's little iron ball. Yeah, there's little the iron balls inside. And one day we got a message on our Facebook page saying, "My kid just swallowed little balls. Are they poisonous?" And I was like, wow, wow. And literally at that time, I was putting my 1-year-old to sleep. I'm like, I can't get up right now. I just can't get up and actually attend to this. And like she says that, and then another message popped up 2 months later saying she swallowed it 10 minutes ago. are these poisonous? I need to know now. So then basically what happened was the kid somehow miraculously opened this maraca and swallowed these little metal balls. And I had the product safety certified, everything. Problem was though, I never had those little balls certified. I just didn't get that done. I didn't think it was an issue. And also is that this kid must have been like Superman, because I tried to break open a maraca after I got that message. I cut my hand open trying to do that. So I don't know how this kid could do that, but they did it. And the biggest thing there was that unfortunately, it was little metal balls, and they were not biodegradable, but they would pass through. And it was no choking hazard, anything. It was fine, but still, is that led a wide open issue in my business, because that person could go ahead and actually, had they complained through Amazon, I would have lost the account immediately. So then I said, okay, well, this is a big deal. I thought had everything completely working and checked out. I didn't. That means then I had to then close off. And that maraca was part of 4 different bundles that were on Amazon, all different ASINs. This is all different listings. So it wasn't just variations, all different listings, and they were selling incredibly well. I had to close those products, take them out of FBA, ship them back to China, get it fixed, and then I thought while I was there, I was going to order some more stock. Hence the loan I came back to earlier I spoke about.
Makes sense. So that is pretty heavy going. And the outcome there for you, what did that conversation just drift off into the distance, or?
Yeah, pretty much the biggest learning issue there was basically is that if you're going to sell anything, especially in kids' toys, anything that could be it could in any way harm a kid, don't do it.
Yeah.
Unless you get your safety service, your stuff checked. That was the biggest learning curve for me. Yes, I kind of knew that already, but I thought I had all the bells and whistles. I didn't.
So what has been your biggest win as a Amazon seller? It doesn't have to be financially, like landmark, milestone. What's the biggest win for you?
I would pretty much say the biggest win for me in my Amazon business is the fact that 6 years, 7 years into this, 8, 9 years into this Amazon business, I've had to rebuild my Amazon business from scratch, effectively 3-4 times.
Yeah.
And again, earlier when I touched on, I've done a lot of training and partnerships with people, and literally almost actually every partnership outside of the past 2 years, every partnership failed. And I went wholeheartedly, fully into those partnerships, where I dropped my Amazon business, my consulting, to focus on those partnerships. They all crashed, and the winner was the partner, really. But I've had to rebuild my Amazon business from scratch multiple times. Every time, doing it from no money, and this is doing Amazon full time. So I don't even have much money. I did not have disposable income. So my biggest win was be able to restart from scratch multiple times, and that effectively made me really good at relaunching Amazon brands, businesses, everything, because I've been to the hard point and I know how hard it is, and now I know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, and success is what it's all about, right? We want to get there to success. No one goes, oh, let's start out and be a failure. But I think people underestimate what you can truly learn from failure. Yeah. I've had loads of setbacks myself, like you. And I think that gives you a really good grounding. The danger is let's just say it's your first business and you go onto Amazon and you hit it out the park. What happens when it gets a bit tough? How do you deal with it? And especially if you're reliant on, say, one product, and then you come in and people trash the market, but then you don't know what to do next, because your play was more about timing and landing in the right niche more so than the knowledge that you've gained. It's a bit like a record producer. You know, Dr. Dre would turn out hits. I know he has his gaps in between, but it will come back, and he knows the formula of producing a hit. And this is the difference between one-hit wonders.
That's true. Good point.
Do you see where I'm coming from?
I understand. I mean, for example, I have a number of clients that I do I help them in their Amazon business, and I love my clients to bits. But they word lies. They say is that, Paul, I'm only hiring you because I don't know what to do if I lost my Amazon business and I need to restart. How would I even do that? Yeah, they don't know, because the thing is that
they've never lost one to start again. So
correct.
Yeah.
And so with them as well, I mean, it's crazy with them because, and this is also a lot of the Amazon not experts, a lot of the people that are doing really well on Amazon just found a really good product, in the beginning and went with it and did really, really well. But if they lose that brand, how will they start again? A lot of these guys don't know how to do any type of external advertising, PPC. It was a one-hit wonder they got, and often is that's more stressful because they can't sleep at night because what if they lose their accounts? What if they lose their best-selling product? What do they do?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So getting on to advice, what's the worst bit of advice that you've heard given to sellers?
It's the age-old one, which I still like. When a person reached out to me recently, and because they heard my accent, and she is South African, she said, "Paul, I heard you on this course. Can I reach out to you, South African to South African?" I'm like, yeah, of course. I love my brethren. So she spoke to me. And she's like, Paul, I understand. You sound like you're busy all the time. I'm like, yeah, I do. I work. I check my hours. I work about at least 12 to 13 hours per day, and that's focused time. I check my hours to a T. And she's like, Paul, I don't understand. Like, you've been doing Amazon now for years. Shouldn't you be on a beach right now with a laptop? And I was like, no. And she goes, I don't understand, Paul, but like, you sound like you're always busy and stressed. I'm like, well, yeah, kind of. She goes, so when I signed up, I was told I will be on a beach very soon, living a laptop lifestyle. I just said no. That doesn't happen.
It happens. Look, some people they might be in their early 20s, don't have a family, and they've got no beholding to them. They don't own a property or anything, and they're selling some stuff on Amazon, and they're backpacking, eating ramen noodles and stuff like that. And there are people that live on the beach and that they've reached the stage of being in Bali. But when you look at the composite whole and the amount of people, it's just the way that it's sold in.
Yeah.
That's what, it's like if you get into business on the premise is that you're going to work part-time and that's what you've been sold on, in a couple of months' time, you're being missold, basically.
Yeah,
there's a lot of work
100%.
goes in. You'll get to that stage and that's fine. Where I say that you earn most of your money is the day that you exit your business.
Yeah, that's very true.
So what advice would you give to advanced sellers today?
To advanced sellers, I'd pretty much is that focus. Please focus. And again, this may sound like because a bit vain because I do a lot of chatbot stuff. I'd say purely just focus on external traffic. Purely because is that so right now I know bots are a big thing and Facebook is Amazon's biggest competitor, and Amazon is aware of it because when Amazon releases their own version of like their own version of, you can do payment portals, everything through Facebook. You can now kind of, but it's not really streamlined. But when Facebook releases that, they have a much higher user base than Amazon. And then when they reach that, there will be a big competitor to Amazon. So then the winners there are the people that have the biggest brand on Amazon. So biggest brand on Facebook. So the big sellers focus now purely on building your authority and your dominance on Facebook. So then when Facebook starts competing with Amazon, you're in good standing.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you want to talk about what you're doing in June? Because you're coming over for Seller Sessions live, aren't you? So live. So we've got you speaking at the event. Do you want to give people a bit of background about what you're talking about in your presentation?
Yeah, so pretty much. I'm quite excited about that, purely because I'll be teaching a whole bunch of things I'm doing right now with my clients and my own Amazon business. And what I love about chatbots, and actually what I teach, is that because first and foremost, I don't see myself first and foremost as a consultant or a teacher. I see myself first and foremost as an Amazon seller. So all the stuff which I will be teaching on that is stuff which I've tested in my own Amazon business that I only think is useful to you if you are an active Amazon seller. I think that's important because it's different though when you have a marketer that doesn't actually sell on Amazon. They don't understand the trials and tribulations that we go through. So what we're teaching in the sessions basically is how to use chatbots. It's all going to be about chatbots. But how to use chatbots to effectively make your customers do your bidding. I really, really do mean that. I mean, for example, is that I make my customers bend over backwards and do a lot of things for me, like doing search and bars, telling me what their best products they would like to see next, a whole bunch of things, and just build a customer audience that will tell you everything. So now a lot of my product research entails me just sending a message to my audience saying, hey, we want to sell this product. What do you think?
Yeah.
And they reply back, yes, no. And I love that, because those are things that are really, really effective. And I'll be showing you how to take chatbots right now to blow up your Amazon business, but kind of build up that foundation to build external traffic. Because a high enough subscriber list purely means that you can point traffic to anywhere you want, your own website, to Amazon, whichever you want.
Yeah, sounds good. Can you complete the sentence for me as we go, as we sign off on your in-depth? Amazon is
a roller coaster. There's some epic highs, but also there's also some epic lows. And Amazon is a roller coaster purely because once you learn how to ride the roller coaster, then you can have fun. And we've been in the game for so long, you and I, Danny, we know Amazon pretty well, and we know that we can start from anywhere, and we know the building blocks to build any successful business on Amazon, and we forget how valuable that knowledge is.
Yeah. Well, let's leave that there. Guys, thank you for joining us. Paul, thank you for joining us. I'll look forward to seeing you guys in the next few days. Take care.